Hello everyone. India has been battling the biggest and the deadliest outbreak of COVID-19. And on top of that, there is another health crisis wreaking havoc on the country. There are thousands of patients have come down with a rare fungus infection. They were recovering from COVID-19. It is called black fungus. It's been killing up to 50% of the patients got infected with this infection. So, to help our community better understand the black fungus and the ways to prevent the deadly condition of black fungus, we are going to have an interaction with a senior doctor, Dr. Sanjay Dhawan, Senior Director, Head Ophthalmology, Max Healthcare. Welcome, Dr. Sanjay. Welcome to Women Talk.
Thank you very much, Poonam. Thank you for having me over here.
Sir, after the deadliest COVID-19 outbreak, now there's another health crisis of black fungus wreaking havoc in the country. Sir, what is the relation and link between the COVID-19 and black fungus?
It's been very unfortunate that we are struck by yet another tragedy of this fungal infection. And let me correct a few things. It's not really a unknown or a new disease. It's not really very rare. It's a known disease which has been there for a long time, but it used to be very, very uncommon in the past. It was seen most commonly in people who have had uncontrolled diabetes, who were immunocompromised because of the use of immunosuppressant drugs or long-term high-dose steroids. In clinical settings where the patient was really debilitated and ill in the hospital in ICUs. And but now the things have changed. The incidence has increased many folds. It is being seen even in patients who have not been on steroids, patients who had even mild illness, patients who are not diabetic also. Of course, still the incidence is more common in diabetes with the use of long-term steroids in moderate to severe COVID. But it's happening otherwise as well. Yes, diabetes, immunocompromised state, steroids are the obvious culprit which could be predisposing to the infection, but it looks like that there's probably something more to its occurrence right now in COVID than we have seen historically. There's something to do with the pathology of the COVID disease, especially this new variant which has affected India in the last few months, which is this variant, and something to do with pathogenesis, which is predisposing people to the infection by this fungus, which is normally present in the environment and normally does not invade our body, but only given the conditions which are favorable to its invasion, it really invades the body. That's why it's called opportunistic pathogen. It's also a saprophyte, that it basically grows on dead tissue. And being an opportunistic pathogen, normally it would not invade the body with the intact body's defense mechanism, but when the defenses are low, it invades the body. And possibly there are various factors happening at the tissue or the microscopic or biochemical level in the body which are predisposing it. Namely, there's a breakdown of the T cell immunity or the cell-mediated immunity of the body. There is increased availability of iron, ferritin. Recently it's been said that because of the use of zinc also, the zinc being available, then the microvascular endothelial damage and thrombosis of the vessels, especially in the paranasal sinuses, which leads to necrosis of the nasal mucosa. These all together in the presence of high blood sugar level, states, it predisposes the body to the infection by mucormycosis, which is called the black fungus. The fungus is actually not black, but the tissue damage, the tissue picture which it creates is that of black anemia. That's why it's being commonly called black fungus.
Normally the patients who were recovering from the COVID-19, they are majorly getting affected with this fungal infection. So is there that inappropriate way of taking the steroid is contributing factor for this infection in patients?
I feel that there is excessive emphasis being laid on the use of steroid, which is not really true. Steroid may have some role, some additional role to predispose the patient to this fungal infection. But steroid is not the main cause or the only culprit. There are other factors too. Uncontrolled diabetes, whether pre-existing or caused by steroid, or caused by COVID itself. COVID can also derange blood sugar levels in diabetics and non-diabetics too. And as I said earlier on, the other pathological factors which are associated with this disease: decrease in the cell-mediated immunity or T cell immunity, endothelial cell damage in the blood vessels, thrombosis in the blood vessels, increased level of available iron, increased zinc because of supplementation. All these are being proposed as possible hypotheses which increase the incidence of this infection. Steroid is not the only factor, and it's probably a smaller factor here. But the reason being, people have had diabetes for a long time. People have had diabetics have had illnesses for a long time. We have used steroid in various conditions for a long time, but the incidence of mucormycosis was not as common. This sudden explosion of mucormycosis, compels us to think that there are probably other factors which should be considered, which should be explored and evaluated. Because if we ignore the possibility for other factors, we'll not be able to diagnose and deal with the situation in the right way. Steroids, on the other hand, are actually being life-saving in this condition. In moderate cases, in severe cases of COVID, it is the steroid which is helping. The reason being that the severity of this disease is not determined by the virus, but the immune response to the virus. And the only thing which is helping in controlling that excessive immune response or the cytokine storm is the use of steroids. So steroids are life-saving. Steroids have to be used. So we cannot call it a misuse. It is a very legitimate use in this condition. Of course, doctors are being very, very careful in how much steroid they're using, for how long they're using, and when they're stopping or when they're tapering it down. And so steroids are to be used, which definitely predisposes to other infections too, not just fungal infections, but also other viral infections, bacterial infections. All that is part of the thing. Steroid is a double-edged sword. So there are disadvantages. We have to use it cautiously, but there are situations which demand the use of steroid, and we cannot say no to that.
What are the symptoms of black fungus? If someone has got affected with this, what are the symptoms that the person can identify that I am infected with this infection?
Although black fungus can have different portals of entry into the body classically, but in relation to COVID, the main portal of entry what is been seen is from the paranasal sinuses, which are the hollow spaces in the bones around the nose. And these are the spaces where the air, air chamber is there. The mucosa is lined by very vascular tissue. So that is where it enters from. So the first symptoms usually start from the nose, and there can be congestion in the nose, heaviness in the nose, stuffiness in the nose. There can be watery or blood-stained discharge. Then there can be heaviness around the area of the sinuses, typically the cheekbones, the mid-face heaviness can be there. There can be pain in this area. There can be a headache, because if there are deeper sinuses involved, if there are ethmoid sinuses involved, there can be headache. There can be headache which is on one side, and most commonly it is being seen on the left side. Then from the sinuses, the fungus fills the sinuses and it starts invading the structures around it, and the structure around it is basically the eye and the orbit. So the sinus rises into the orbit to involve the eye tissues, involve the eyeball, the muscles, the orbit, and what's called the apex of the orbit. So once the apex of the orbit or the optic nerve is involved, they can be blurring and also complete loss of vision. The movements of the eye can be affected, leading to double vision. If the socket gets filled with fungus, then the eyeball starts to bulge forward. From the orbit and from the apex of the orbit, it can go into the brain and can give rise to symptoms of drowsiness, headache, vomiting, convulsions, disorientation. From sinuses, it can actually also come below and affect the palate and the teeth. Teeth may become loose, they may fall off teeth, they can be bleeding from there also. So those are the symptoms. There can be formation of say rash or a plaque or dark plaque and the hard palate when it comes down. So these are the common symptoms of this. But yes, typically headache on one side, pain in the eyes, blurring of vision, double vision, pain on the cheek, nasal stuffiness, discharge, and a general feeling of weakness and ill health.
Sir, as you just informed that uncontrolled diabetes makes a fertile ground for this mucus to enter into our body. So what is there any prevention for this? How the diabetic patient can save themselves from getting affected with this?
So diabetics need to be careful at all times, and these days especially so. Whether they've had COVID, they've not had COVID, whatever, they need to keep up and watch on their sugar levels. They need to keep the blood sugar in control, not just before, but during and even after COVID also. So if blood sugar levels are in good control and the diet and everything is managed before the COVID, and if say unfortunately a person does get COVID, probably his illness will not be that bad. It'll be easier to maintain the sugar levels even during the COVID illness also. Yes, if you're diabetic and if you get COVID, you must inform your doctor that you are diabetic and the treatment that you're already taking. Your treatment may have to be increased, and usually it is not the oral anti-diabetic agents which are added, which are increased, but there may be requirement of insulin. So do not resist, do not oppose the use of insulin, at least for this short period of illness in the COVID, because when COVID strikes and you have to be treated with steroids also, the blood sugar that shoots up is actually very, very inordinate increase in blood sugar that cannot be controlled by increasing the oral steroids. So you may have to be given insulin, and you should not resist that. You should not say no to that. You should really accept that. In fact, you should actively discuss with your doctor for the possibility of use of insulin. So before, during the COVID, after the COVID, the blood sugar has to be in strict control. That's very, very important, because that's one of the known strong factors which can predispose to the occurrence of fungal infections, mucormycosis and others. Steroids, unfortunately, we have no control. If the clinical situation demands the use of steroids will have to be used. And steroids will have to be used in the quantity and for a duration that the clinical situation demands. But diabetes is something that we can have a control on before and during the illness.
In a chronic fungal infection condition, the patient's eyes and jaws has to be removed. So in your practice, how many cases you have seen so far, and in which the eyes had to be removed?
So we at Max Healthcare, we got a multidisciplinary team to deal with mucormycosis. This team comprises of physicians, pulmonologists, ENT surgeons, eye surgeons, neurosurgeons also. The main role is that of an ENT surgeon and a physician together. The role of ophthalmologist comes a little late in more severe cases. By the time it comes to ophthalmologist, it's already quite late in the disease. And right now there is a deluge of cases at all the hospitals. My team has treated a lot of eye involvement. We've had to, with a very heavy heart, remove a lot of eyes. Because if it invades the orbit, then the only option that's left to us is to actually remove the eyeball and all the contents of the socket of the eye, the so-called exenteration. Because this disease is devastating, we have to remove everything. And then the eyeball is lost, the vision is lost, it cannot be replaced. No eye transplant is possible after that, no vision is possible after that. It's a very, very sad state now. And the ENT people have to, in a very early stages, they may have to just do a debridement, that is removal of the fungal mass and all the dead tissue around that till fresh tissue is available. But if the presentation is late or the disease is advanced, then whole of the maxillary bone, all the tissues around that, skin around that, eye and all, everything has to be removed and later on has to be reconstructed with plastic surgery. So the disease is bad, but the treatment is even more I would say disheartening for even the doctors. We hate to perform that kind of surgery. So prevention is a big thing in this.
Right. So there is no treatment as such available for complete cure of this problem?
The treatment is available, treatment is difficult, treatment is prolonged, treatment is expensive, treatment is there. And so in early cases, as I said, that what is called debridement or the removal of all the fungal tissue, all the dead tissue, all the damage done by the fungus, along with the use of antifungal drugs. Antifungal drugs have to be given intravenously in the initial stages. And once the disease comes in control, and the patient goes back home, then patient is switched over to oral antifungal drugs, which may have to be continued for a long duration. Maybe for 3 to 6 months, the patient has to receive antifungal treatment. So that, and the antifungal drugs are not only expensive, but also not very easy on the system. They have a lot of side effects and a lot of toxicity. They have to be used very, very cautiously. That's why the intravenous drugs are used mainly in a hospital setup. And when we know that the disease is getting in control and patient is responding well to those drugs and patient is discharged, then intravenous drugs can be used at home also under supervision. And then soon enough, oral medicines are used to replace the intravenous drugs. But yes, surgery first and combined with the use of antifungal drugs is the main treatment. And with proper treatment, the disease can be cured. But the sad part is it leaves behind some damage. And then the damage once done is bad. No, so it's very important to catch up the disease early and treat the disease early.
Sir, as most of the patients, those who are recovering from COVID-19, they are majorly got affected with this infection. So what are the precautions they can take to escape from this condition?
So here I would like to put a strong message that it's easier to prevent COVID. It's more difficult to prevent for this fungal infection. It's even more difficult to treat this fungal infection. So all our efforts for prevention should be focused at preventing COVID in the first place. So using double mask, social distancing, staying at home, taking care of yourself, going out only when it's really required. So all those things that government, doctors, media, all of you have been talking about for the last 1 year or so, those need to be followed. We have to prevent COVID in the first place. We have to prevent spread of COVID in the first place. Then if unfortunately, God forbid, COVID does come in, you need to be treated by a proper qualified physician. And so that's not the time to debate on what form of pathy will work and what form of pathy will not work. We have to go with what has been shown to be effective in the past. So you have to be treated by a proper qualified physician, whether at home or in the hospital, and then let your physician decide what medicines are to be required, how much to be required, how long to be required. You have to trust your physician. You have to follow the advice of your physician. So you have to follow.
Dr. Sanjay, you have to be in the hospital all the time. So how do you keep yourself safe from this condition?
Yeah, that's a very, very difficult question. We always have this sort of Damocles hanging on our head that we may get it any time, and many doctors have got infected. Many doctors have lost their lives also, their loved ones also. We follow the same precautions that we ask others to follow. So basically use of face mask, N95 mask is what I always use in the hospital. I do not enter the hospital without an N95 mask. And I don't use same N95 mask every day. I typically have a set of 6 masks, in my car. Put them in 6 Ziploc pouches labeled Monday to Saturday. And on a specific day, I pick out the mask, and then I enter wear that in the hospital. After exiting from the hospital, I put that mask in the same pouch. I change my mask, So my mask for my hospital, the mask for the car, the mask from home are very, very different from each other. So I would use a particular N95 mask only 4 times in a month, and I discard them. And 4 times is only at a gap of 1 week each. And then I discard the whole set. This is the practice which I've been following for the last 1 year. Hand sanitization is extremely important. I have to examine patients from very, very close quarter. And when I examine the patient, the eye examination, we use a special instrument to examine the eye, but we go very close to the patient. There's hardly a distance of 1 foot from the, between patient's mouth and our face. So we're very close to the patient. So we are at very, very high risk to catch the infection. So hand sanitization before and after every patient is extremely important. So these are the things, and taking care of your health is important too.
You rightly said, actually what people are doing, they are using same mask again and again. They are just washing it after 1 week, then using it. This is the mistake most of the people are doing nowadays. Yeah, they should keep.
There's no rocket science involved over here. It's basic common sense. that a mask, if you use the same mask over and over again, you may get the infection from the mask. It loses its effectiveness, and so we have to be cautious.
Would you like to give a message to our viewers?
Yes, a message which all of us already know, and that is take all precautions to save yourself, your loved ones, your family, your friends from COVID. Prevention of COVID is easier than treatment of COVID. Prevention of COVID is easier than prevention of black fungus or treatment of black fungus. So focus more on prevention. Do not be in a rush to go back to the old life, because while rushing to the old life, you may actually end up making things more difficult for yourself. So that's the first thing. Secondly, live a healthy life. Take care of your body, take care of your mind. It's very, very important. This is your tool with which you can actually enjoy your life. So take care of your physique. Exercise regularly, have a healthy, balanced diet. Let there be sun exposure. Go to the nature, connect to the nature, be part of the nature, respect the nature. That's most important. And over the last few decades, we have stopped respecting. We have caused a lot of devastation of the nature. That's the reason why the pandemic actually spread the way it did. So we need to slow down. We need to take care of ourselves and our families.
Dr. Sanjay, I always ask this question from all my guests. What is your learning of life from this tough phase of our life, pandemic?
Yes, so my learning is not really a new learning. It basically has re-emphasized my old learning, and my old learning is that in life you'll always be thrown challenges. You'll be thrown into midst of situation and difficult situation. There will always be challenges. You have to expect them, anticipate them, be prepared for them, and then deal with them heads on. Whatever life throws at you, make the best of it, and live up to the situation, deal with that, come out of it stronger. Without challenges, the life will be a flat line, and it will be very dull, dry, We cannot live without challenges. Our nature is such that when there are no challenges, we actually become depressed. We start acting funny. We start creating challenges for us, knowingly or unknowingly. So if you see people who go for adventure sport, they do skydiving, bungee jumping, and do a lot of other things, and including me, mountain climbing and stuff like that. These are the challenges which we pose to ourselves to make our life more interesting and worthwhile. So we have to. There have to be challenges in life, and we have to overcome them. Besides that, the other thing which this COVID has taught me is that we have to respect nature. We have to be part of the nature. We have to be as natural as possible, live our life in a very, very natural way. Slow down. We should not be part of the rat race. We may win the rat race, we will still be a rat. It is because of the fast-paced life that this problem has happened. How did this virus spread? It spreads due to two things: people coming close together and people moving. So people movement has led to spread of this pandemic. We should not be in a rush. We need to slow down. We need to take things easy. We need to take care of our families, ourselves. That's the lesson which I have learned, and I want to share it.
Sanjay rightly said, we should be close to nature, and prevention is always better than cure. So stay safe, stay indoor, and don't forget to mask up.